There's a very particular kind of loneliness that has nothing to do with being physically alone. The loneliness of sitting across from someone you deeply admire, maybe even love, and realizing you will never fully know what's happening inside them. Natsume Soseki built an entire novel around exactly that ache. Kokoro, which translates loosely to heart or the heart of things, follows a young student's quiet devotion to an older man he calls sensei, a man whose gentleness is matched only by his impenetrable sadness. And by the time the novel reveals why, most readers find themselves changed by it in ways they didn't expect from something this quiet. Because underneath its restrained, unhurried surface, Kokoro is really a novel about the two things that keep human beings permanently and achingly separate from one another: the guilt we're too ashamed to speak aloud, and the distance that guilt slowly carves between even the people who love us most. Soseki doesn't raise his voice once in this entire book. He doesn't need to. What he offers instead is something far more lasting: an unflinching look at how a single private betrayal can quietly reshape an entire life and everyone standing near it. Today, we're walking through 5 lessons hidden inside this haunting, deeply human novel. 1. Even the people closest to us remain unreachable. The student at the center of Kokoro spends the entire novel trying to get closer to Sensei, visiting him, studying him, quietly hoping that enough devotion will eventually earn him access to whatever sadness lives behind the older man's calm exterior. And yet, no matter how sincere his affection, Sensei remains just out of reach, offering warmth without explanation, wisdom without context, presence without disclosure. Even Sensei's own wife, who has shared a home and a life with him for years, senses that some part of her husband has simply never been available to her. Soseki lingers on this ache without ever rushing to resolve it, because the ache itself is the point. Kokoro, the word the title borrows, is often translated to heart, but it carries a deeper implication: the innermost self, the part of a person that logic and closeness can't fully access. The novel suggests something quietly devastating about intimacy itself. You can love someone deeply, live beside them for years, and still never fully arrive at the center of who they are. Some distances, Soseki seems to say, aren't a failure of love. They're simply the shape of being human. 2. Guilt left unspoken doesn't disappear, it calcifies. By the novel's final act, we finally learn what has hollowed Sensei out for decades: a betrayal committed in his youth that he has never spoken of to another living soul. He carries it silently through his entire adult life, letting it shape his marriage, his friendships, his withdrawal from the world, without ever once naming it out loud to the people closest to him. The guilt doesn't fade with time, the way we're often told it will. It simply settles into him, permanent and unspoken, quietly hardening into the very personality everyone around him has come to know as Sensei. And this is one of the most sobering truths Kokoro has to offer. Guilt that's never confessed doesn't heal, it calcifies. It becomes structural, woven into how a person moves through the world long after the original wound has scarred over. And if a story this quietly devastating is already staying with you, you don't need to track down a physical copy to experience it. You can listen to Kokoro as an audiobook through Amazon Audible, at work, during your commute, or in any of those moments in the day when sitting down with a physical book just isn't possible. Right now, you can try the subscription for practically nothing, and I'll leave the link down in the description if you'd like to give it a try. 3. Love can make us capable of a betrayal we never believed we were capable of. At the heart of Sensei's confession is his closest friend, Kei, an earnest, disciplined young man who lived alongside him under the same roof and who fell in love with the very same woman Sensei loved. Terrified of losing her, Sensei quietly secured her family's blessing for himself without ever telling Kei the truth and without giving his friend the chance to speak first. It wasn't cruelty exactly, Not the way Sensei experienced it in the moment. It was fear, dressed up as necessity, moving faster than his conscience could catch up to it. This is where Soseki's portrait of love turns genuinely unsettling. Love, in this novel, isn't a force that makes people better. It's a force capable of making even a fundamentally decent man betray his closest friend, simply because the fear of losing someone can override every other loyalty a person believes they hold sacred. Sensei never thought of himself as capable of this kind of betrayal, and that, perhaps, is the most unsettling part of all. The novel asks us to sit with an uncomfortable possibility that under the right pressure, most of us might be more capable of betrayal than we'd ever like to believe.
4. Silence can be its own form of betrayal. Sensei's true failure was never simply that he pursued the woman they both loved. It was that he let Kei learn of the engagement secondhand, through the widow, rather than finding the courage to tell him directly himself. That single silence, that small, cowardly omission, becomes the hinge on which the rest of the novel's tragedy turns. Not long after learning the truth this way, Kei takes his own life, leaving behind no direct accusation, but leaving Sensei with an unshakable, lifelong certainty that his silence played some part in what happened. Soseki treats this omission with the same moral weight most novels reserve for outright deception, and it's one of the book's most quietly important insights. Silence is rarely neutral. Choosing not to speak, especially when someone deserves to hear something directly from you, is still a choice, and it still carries consequences. Kokoro suggests that some of the deepest betrayals in our lives aren't dramatic acts of cruelty at all. They're simply the moments we stayed quiet, when honesty, however uncomfortable, was the one thing we owed somebody. 5. Confession comes too late to undo the distance it was meant to close. Sensei's entire life story reaches the student not through years of gradual trust, but through a single sweeping letter, written and sent only once Sensei has already resolved to end his own life. It is, finally, the full and honest confession the student spent the whole novel hoping for, and it arrives at the exact moment it can no longer change anything, delivered as farewell rather than repair. The distance the student spent so long trying to close is finally bridged, but only after the person on the other side of it is already gone. There's a quiet cruelty in that timing, and Soseki clearly intends for us to feel it. Confession, the novel suggests, is often most complete exactly when it's least useful, offered only once the stakes of honesty no longer include the risk of rejection or consequence or having to keep living alongside the person you've confessed to. Kokoro leaves us with an uncomfortable question rather than a comforting answer. What good is finally being known if it only happens once it's too late to be loved differently because of it? Before we close this one, if Sensei's quiet, guarded sorrow has lingered with you the way it lingers with the student, remember that you don't need a physical copy to experience Kokoro for yourself. The full audiobook is available through Amazon Audible, so you can sit with Soseki's restrained, aching prose during your commute, at work, or in any moment when reading on paper simply isn't possible. The trial subscription is practically free right now, and you'll find the link waiting for you in the description below. In the end, Kokoro isn't really a novel about one man's singular mistake. It's a novel about how much distance a single unspoken guilt can quietly build between people who love each other, and how rarely that distance gets closed in time. Remember to subscribe, comment, like, and see you next time.